Baruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Lamed Dalid Amud Beis, 8 lines from the top. The Gemara had just previously told us that in regards to then bowing down Shmona Esrei, the average person bows down in the beginning, at the end of the Shmona Esrei, Tchila v'Soif. A Kohen Gadol, he davens and he bows down in the beginning of every bracha. The Melech, he bows down in the beginning of the Shemona Esrei and he doesn't even stand erect until at the very end. The principle we said is that a person who's given more greatness, that person has more hachana, more humility before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How does he express that humility? By bowing down to Hashem. Now the Gemara discusses different aspects of bowing down. Says our Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, bringing up Brisa, Kida al Apayim. Kida, when we say the word Kida in Tanakh, it refers to on one's face. Shenemar v'tikoid ba'sheva apayim aretz. That Basheva, she prostrated herself with her face to the ground. Kriya, when you see the word Kriya in Tanakh, it's al birkayim. Kneeling refers to on the knees. Shenemar says mikroya al birkov, that he bowed down on his knees. Hishtachavo, when you see the word hishtachavo, zu pishut yodayim v'raglayim. That's when a person prostrates himself, extending his arms and his legs out on the ground. Shenemar says, Hava novoy ani v'imcho v'achecho lishtachavos lecho artso. In the dream of Yosef HaTzadik, it says that I and your mother and your brothers are going to then be mishtachave to you on the ground. Says the Gemara, Amrav Chia Bereid Rav Huna, Chazina lohula abai v'rova dematzlu atzluye. We saw that they were bowing down, but they would be inclined, because a person who is an important person in people's eyes, is a Adam Chashuv, in this case, Abai v'rova, Gedolei Yisrael, unless a person's 100% sure that he will be answered in his tefillah, then he has to be careful, because if he bows down in such a way, so overtly, with a pishut yodayim v'raglayim, and he's not answered, it will be a chilul Hashem. Tani chado hakorea behoido hareze mishubach. One brisa says that a person who is korea in the bracha of hoido, he is mishubach. V'tani idach, while another brisa says hareze meguna. So one extreme to the next. Is it meshubach to then bow down by hoidah, or is it meguna? Lo kasha, says the Gemara, ha betchila ha levesoif. When it's the beginning of the hoidah of moedim, then it's considered to be meshubach. At the end is meguna. V'rava kara b'hoidah tchila v'soif. Rava did bow down both in the beginning and the end, so it can't be that it's meguna. Amri le Rabbana, Maika Ovid Mar Hochi, why are you doing so? Amar lahu chazina l'Rav Nachman dekara v'chazina l'hei l'Rav Sheshet dekara Ovid Hochi. I have a Mesara. I saw Rav Nachman do it, who saw Rav Sheshes. So they both bowed down in the beginning of Hoidah and at the end of Hoidah. There we're talking about in the Moedim D'Rabbanon. V'hatanya, asked the Gemara with the Brisa, hakareh b'Hoidah harei ze megune. No, that which it says in the Brisa that it's megune to bow down b'hoidah is not talking about the hoidah in the Shemona Esrei. It's talking about the hoidah in the Halil. V'hatanyo hakoreya b'hoidah u'b'hoidah shel Halil harei ze megune. So here it says in the Brisa, a person is koreh b'hoidah, and it separately says somebody's koreh b'hoidah v'halil. So obviously it's talking about something else. Says the Gemara, kitanya hi b'hoidah the birkas hamozon. When a person bows down both in halil and in birkas hamozon, it's referred to as megune. Says our Mishnah, a new Mishnah that's discussing also where a person has to be careful when davening, not to then get confused and not daven the proper way. Says our Mishnah, hamispalil v'to simen raloi. If a person is davening and he makes a mistake, it's a bad simen for him. And therefore, the simen that is bad means that it's not miskabel his tefillah. And therefore, you should mefashvesh. B'maisav, he should then look into his actions and determine what is wrong? What is he doing that is incorrect? V'im shliach tzibur hu simen ra l'shloichov. If the shliach tzibur makes a mistake, then it's not only a bad siman for him, but for his entire tzibur that he's the shliach tzibur for. As it says, shlucha shel adam kamoisoi, that he is on behalf representing the tzibur as a shliach, and therefore again it'll be a bad siman for them, and they should also mefashpesh b'maisov. Amru alav al Rabbi Chanina ben Doiso shahaya mispalel ala cholim. He used to daven ver cholim, ve'omer zeh chai ve'zeh meis, and he would know right away if this one's going to then live or not. Amru loi minayin ata yodeya. They asked him, how does he know? Omar lohem im shegur tfilase bifi yodeya nishehu mekubal v'im lav yodeya nishehu meturaf. If I know that the tefillah that I'm saying comes out of my mouth and it flows properly, then I know that it was successful and the person is going to live. If, however, it's not that way, then I understand that my tefillah was ripped up, was meturaf, and therefore it'll be the opposite. Ask the Gemara, ahai, what is this going on when it says that a person's making a mistake and it's a siman ra in his tefillah? What is that referring to? Where in the Shmona Esrei? Reb Chia Amarav Safra Mishum Chad Debei Rabbi Be'avois. It's talking about the first bracha of Avois. When a person mishabech HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he has to have extra care to make sure that he's davening that bracha with kavana, as not to make a mistake. Ike demasni lo brisa. There are those who teach this on the following brisa: Hamispalel tzorich sheyichaven es liboy bekulon. V'im eno yochel lechaven bekulon yechaven es liboy beachas. It says over here in the brisa that a person ideally should have kavana for all of the brachos. But if he's not able to have kavanah for all of the brachos, at least he should have a minimum kavanah for one of them. Asked the Gemara, ahai, what bracha are we referring to? On Reb Chia, Amar Rav Safra, Mishum Chad, Debei Rebbe, Be'avois. We're talking about the first bracha of Avois. That bracha must be said with kavanah. It used to be that the halacha was such that a person has to go back and choizer on his tefillah. If he got to the point, even later on in the tefillah, he realized, or he was finished with his tefillah, that he didn't daven in the first bracha of Avos with the proper kavanah, then he has to be choyzer to the beginning of Shemona Esrei. Nowadays, we're concerned that a person will not have the kavanah even the second time, and therefore he doesn't go back. However, a person has to be very careful to daven that the first bracha be with kavanah. Ad kedei kach, if a person is able to anticipate that he will not be able to then mechaven, at least for the first bracha, he should wait to misyashev his daitoi, so that he can then say the first bracha at least with kavanah. Amru alav al Rabbi Chanina. The Gemara quotes our Mishnah by Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa that when he would daven, and the daven would flow from his mouth, and it was something then, it was clear to him that the person he was davening for is going to be alive. Whereas the person, if he did not daven properly, meaning that when he davened, it didn't flow out, but rather it was megumgam, he would stutter and it would then come out properly, then he would realize that it was the opposite for this choyle. Says our Gemara, Minohani Mili, from where did he know? Just because it was Shalgor B'Fiv that the person is going to be alive, and if not, then the person will unfortunately die. Amar Yoshua ben Levi, Domar Kro, Bore Niv Svosayim, Shalom, Shalom, La Rochik, V'la Korov, Omar Hashem Rifosiv. It says in the Pasuk, I created the speech of the lips. Shalom, Shalom for those who are close and far. Though far and close. Hashem said, and I will heal him. So here to play on the words, Bore is Bori. No, Nisosayim. If my words of my lips of tefillah are going to be Bori, it's going to be clear, then I can tell that the person will have shalom, shalom, l'rochak u'lekorov, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will heal him. Says the Gemara, on Reb Chia bar Abu, on Reb Yochanan, kol hanevim kulon lo nisnabu ela lemasya bito letalmid chacham. Here it says in regards to a person's ability to then menabe, all of the Nevi'im, they would only give consolation and speak about the toivois, about the those who are zoiche to then marry their daughters to the Talmid Chacham, because that is a tremendous benefit, and therefore they were minisnabe about that. And to do business with Talmidei Chachamim. And also to benefit the Talmid Chacham with his property. Aval Talmidei Chacham atzman ayin lo yira'os Elokim zuloscha yaseh lemachak eloi. But in regards to the Talmid Chacham themselves, that an ayin is not able to see. In other words, they were able to misnabe on the benefits for a person who cleaves to the Talmid Chacham. Because that person who cleaves to the Talmid Chacham, Chazal say, it's as if he's cleaving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore when he benefits the Talmid Chacham, or he marries his daughter to a Talmid Chacham, then that person who's having connection, a dveikus with the Talmid Chacham, he's having dveikus to Hashem. And therefore ultimately, they're able to nisnabe on that hatava. However, to be nisnabe on the dveikus itself, and the greatness of who the Talmid Chacham is, that itself is not shaykh. That's an ayin lo yira'asa. That's an eye that is not able to see. Says the Gemara, Ramechia bar Abe Amar Yochanan, Kol hanevim kulon no nisabu ela limois hamashiach, aval lo lo'olam haba. Aval lo lo'olam haba ayin lo yira'asa Elokim zuloscha. He says the Nevi'im can only talk about the toivos and the consolations that will take place in Yemois HaMashiach, in the days of Mashiach, but not in Olam Haba, because again, there the Pasuk says, Ayin lo yira'os Elokim zuloscha. The eye cannot behold that what's going to be taking place in Olam Haba. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu can tell that. But a person, even a Navi, cannot then foretell the greatness of that event. Upliga de Shmuel, this argues on Shmuel's opinion. The Omar Shmuel, Ein bein Olam Hazeh lemois HaMashiach, ele shibud malchiyos bilvad. Shmuel is of the opinion that there is no difference in this world and Yemois HaMashiach except for the shibu malchios, the control that the malchios have on Klal Yisrael in their governments. Shenemar says, Ki lo yechtal evyon mikerev haaretz. It says they will not desist even poor people from amongst the land. That means that even in Yemois HaMashiach, there'll be poor people. And therefore, this argues on Shmuel, because Rabbi Yochanan is saying that a person, a Navi, can speak about what will happen in Yemois HaMashiach. But Rabbi Shmuel is saying that that's going to be the same type of existence that we have over here as well. For that, the Navi is not going to then be necessary to tell what will be in Yemois HaMashiach. V'am Rabbi Chia bar Abe, Am Rabbi Yochanan kol hanevim kulon lo nisnab'u ela lebalei tshuva. They're only going to then be misnabe about the balei tshuva, the greatness and the consolations of the balei tshuva. But tzadikim gemurim ayin lo yira'os Elokim zuloscha. But the greatness of the tzadikim gemurim, that wonderful level of purity, that they won't be able to then perceive. Upligid Rabbi Abo, however, this argues on Rabbi Abo, who says the opposite. The Omar Rabbi Abo, Mokum Shebalei Tshuva Oimdin, Tzadikim Gemurim Einam Oimdim. The place where Balei Tshuva, they will stand, the Tzadikim Gemurim do not stand. Shenem, as it says, Shalom, Shalom L'rochik, U'lekorov, L'rochik Bereisha, V'hod L'korov. In this pasuk, it puts those who are rochik, referring to the Balei Tshuva, before it says Lekarov, the Tzadikim Gemurim, and therefore they take precedence in their greatness according to this opinion. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Loch, he will say back, that's not a proof. My rochik shahaya rochik midvar aveiro umikara umaikara shahaya kara lidvar aveiro v'nisrachik mimenu hashta. Well, that's which it says, Rochik is referring to the Tzadik Gamor. The Tzadik Gamor was Rochik me'Aveira, and therefore he's mentioned first, whereas the one who was Karov to the Aveira, the Baal Tshuva, he's mentioned subsequently. Says the Gemara, My ayin lo yira'asa. What is this referring to, that an eye will not behold? Omer Rav Yoshua ben Levi, Ze yayin ha-meshumar ba'anova misheshes b'nei bereshis. This picture that a person cannot behold in Olam Haba is referring to the wine, referring to the great simcha, the everlasting joy of Olam Haba, binena miziv hashchina in the world to come. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmeni Omar, Ze Eden shelo sholto boy ayin kol beria. This is referring to the Eden that an eye cannot perceive. Shema Toima, maybe you'll say Adam Harishon, Heichan Haya. Where was Adam Harishon if not in Gan Eden? So he says, no, Began. He was in the Gan, but not in Eden. The Shema Toima hu Gan hu Eden. Maybe you'll say it's the same thing. Talmud Loimar v'nahar yoytze me Eden lahashkos es hagan. Gan lechud ve'Eden lechud. There was two different places. And therefore he was in the Gan, but not in Eden. That's referring to Olam Haba. Tanu Rabban, and the Gemara brings up Brisa about the great Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa. We already heard about Rabbi Chanina Doisa previously in the beginning of his parak. We heard about Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa, and also at the end of the second parak. At the end of the second parak, the Gemara told us Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa that in his zechus the entire world is fed, and he himself only eats a kav of cheruvin from one Shabbos to the next Shabbos. In the beginning, or towards the beginning of our parak, we discussed that Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa, he put his foot on the hole where the oroid, the dangerous rodent, would come out of and be mazik other people, and he put his foot there. He subsequently took the oroid that was dead on his shoulders and he brought to the Beis HaMedrash, and he said, it's not the oroid that kills, but the chet that kills. Now the Gemara discusses the greatness of Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa in regards to tefillah. Tanu Rabban and Masechet Brachot shel Rabbi Gamliel. The Brisa tells us about a story that took place, a Maisa with the son of Rabbi Gamliel who was sick. Shogar Shnei Talmidei Chachamim Eitzel Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa Levakesh Alav Rachamim. Rabbi Gamliel sent two students to Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa that he should daven on behalf of his son. Kevan Shera Oisom, when Chanina ben Doisa saw them from the distance as they were approaching his house, Ola la'aliyah ubikesh alav rachamim. He went up to the aliyah of the house and he began davening to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for this son. Apparently he knew that Rabbi Gamliel's son was sick and that they were coming in order to then ask him to daven on his behalf. Biridasoi amar lehem lechu shechol tzachama. He said, you can go because the fever has already come down. Amru loi v'chi navi ato. They said to him, are you a navi? How do you know? Amar lehen loi navi anoichi v'lo ben navi anoichi. Elekach mekublani im shegurot filose befi yodei ani shehu mekubal v'im lav yodei ani shehu meturaf. Not because I'm a navi, but I have a mesara that when my tefillah is shagur befi, it flows out. Then I can tell that my tefillah was successful and was accepted. If not, however, then I can say that it was torn up and therefore it was not successful. Says the Gemara, Yashvu v'kosvu v'kivnu oisesho. The two students, they sat down and then they wrote down exactly the moment that Rabbi Chanina was davening for Rabbi Gamliel's son. Keshebo eitzel Rabbi Gamliel omar lehem. When they returned to Rabbi Gamliel, he said to them, Ha'avoido. He took an oath. Lo chasartem v'lo hotartem elakach haya maaseh. It wasn't not less and not more. It's exactly the moment that you said Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa davened. At that moment, that's when his fever went down. And he asked us to give him water to drink. He already became healthy enough and he was back to himself. Now the Gemara concludes with another Maaseh. Veshuv Maaseh Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa. Sheholach lilmod Torah eitzel Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He went to learn Torah by his Rebbe, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the Gadol Hador. V'chola b'noi shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's son became sick. Omar lo Chanina b'ni bakesh alov rachamim v'yichne. The Rebbe asked his Talmud, Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa, to daven that his son should be healed. Hiniach roishe ben birkov ubikesh alav rachamim v'chaya. He put his head between his knees and he davened for the son of Rabbi Gamliel, of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai rather, to be healed, and indeed he became healed, he became better. On Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, ilmoli hitiach ben Zakkai es roishoi ben birkov kol hayom kuloi lo hayu mashkichin alav. If I, he's talking about himself, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, if I myself would also place my head between my knees and daven all day long, they wouldn't pay attention to me in my tefillah. Amru lo ishtoi. His wife turned to him and said, V'chi Chanina gadol mimcha. Is Chanina ben Doisa greater than you? Omar lo. He said to his wife, Rabbi Yochanan, Lav, he's not. Ella hu doime be'eved lifnei hamelech, v'ani doime kesar lifnei hamelech. He is compared to an eved who goes before the king. He's able to go in and out whenever he wishes. He has such a hemishkeit. He's so close to the king that he's able to go in and out and visit him and serve him. Whereas me, I'm doime kesar lifnei hamelech. I'm like a sar. I'm busy with the tzibur. I'm davening for the tzibur. It's true. I'm oisik in Talmud and being melamed the tzibur and other sarchei tzibur. So therefore, I don't daven for the yachid like he davens for the yachid. He has a personal connection, so to speak, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in his avodah of tefillah when he davens for the yachid. The Gemara concludes with the following halacha of tefillah. We saw this halacha earlier. We saw it in the previous parak, in the fourth parak, that a person should daven his Shmona Esrei, that there should be chalonos, there should be windows that are there in the room, that he's able to then look out before his tefillah, or at least in the middle of tefillah if his mind diverts, and he can go ahead and be miskaven and be nichna before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Obviously, during the tefillah itself, a person has to daven with either his eyes closed or in the siddur. But again, if in the middle he gets distracted and his concentration is lost, he can quickly look up outside the window and gather his thoughts once again and then continue to daven. Shneimar, it says, "V'chavein psichon lei ba'alisei neged Yerushalem." It says in the Apostle Daniel that the windows of the Aliyah were towards Yerushalayim. Omer Rav Kahana chotzif alai man de matzli bebikto. Rav Kahana says, it's a chutzpah upon me when somebody davens in an open field. Then he's lacking the hachana necessary to daven before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When the field is open, he feels like he's also big, and he doesn't feel that he is limited. And therefore, that's lacking in his tefillah before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'amrav kahana chatzif alai man de v'farish chatoi. Person, he says, is chutzpah upon me if he doesn't express his chatoim bein adam lamakom. As it says, Shneimar, Ashrei Nosui Pesha Kisui Chato. A person is fortunate if the Pesha that he does before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, again, Ben Adam Lamakom, he doesn't cover it up. Because if he were to cover it up, it would be a Chil Hashem. And therefore, a person should express the things that he did bad in order that people should learn not to do those things. Hadron Aloch Ein Oimdin.